You've heard oftentimes before that when you're planning a trip, you can't pick the roads until you know what your destination is. There's something about randomness that calls to us at times. We want to just go where things are happening and wander about and that type of stuff. There's an allure to that. But we know that at some point we have to have a destination. At some point we have to pick where we want to get to. And once we know where we want to get to, we can plot the course. We can chart the highways. We can evaluate the different methods and paths and ways to get there. When I was going to school, we didn't have guidance counselors to tell us which classes to take and what time and all the rest of that type of stuff. So you got your booklet out, was printed in those days, and you got your newspaper booklet out and you flipped through all the different classes and you would chart out all the classes you needed, because this is what I need to get in order to have my degree. And these are the ones I've already taken, and these are the ones that are offered. And then you would look and say, okay, how can I make this work so that I'm only on campus for X number of hours a day, right? And how can I get them all in the morning or all in the evening or whatever else to make that work? And that was a part of ultimately knowing I had a destination of this degree and all of these different classes, and this is what I wanted to get done during this semester. I only wanted to take 16 units, whatever it was, right? My point is this: we have to, when we have a destination in mind, become very intentional about the things we're doing. And this week's lesson, that's what we're talking about, the difference between being intentional and focusing on those paths as opposed to kind of a randomness where we wait and see what happens. Think of the idea of going fishing, and we want to go and catch a fish. And so I walk out into my garage and I grab my fishing pole. How long will I have to stand there before I catch a fish? Probably forever, because there's not many fish in my garage. I've got to be very intentional about where I'm going and what I'm doing and all the rest of those things. Josh smiled because this week there were fish in my yard. But we have to make that plan and decide how we're going to do that. So this week we're talking about being intentional in sharing the community of believers and sharing our faith and sharing the story, and in how we decide who to share that with. In the sermon this week, you're asked to choose one, to choose someone that you can invest in. And what that means is to be intentional about what we're doing, as opposed to just waiting for it to happen, waiting for someone to come up and ask me. I'm actually choosing someone in my sphere of influence, in my realm, that I'm going to intentionally invest into our relationship enough to find out if they have an interest in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And ultimately, if they do, to invite them into community, into small group, into sermon time, into Bible study, to find out more about that and to learn those things. Because ultimately, it's the greatest bit of knowledge. It's the greatest expression of my love for somebody else, to share with them the saving power of Jesus' blood. I don't want to be random about that. We as a group, we as a church, need to be very intentional about how we do that and invest in very specific ways to demonstrate our love for others and our love for God. In your small groups this week, I want you to begin your discussion in chapter 4 of Matthew. As Jesus begins his ministry, we're told that he calls his disciples. As a matter of fact, he chooses them. He goes and asks them to come with him on this journey. And it says in verse 18, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. As we talk about, we're probably more familiar with, I will make you fishers of men. As we talk about that idea, does it feel awkward to think of yourself as going out and actually, lack of a better word, targeting people that you're going to share the gospel with? How does that make you feel? Is that what we're really called to do? Discuss that in your group. In John 14, verse 6, Jesus makes a statement, and he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." It's a very, very exclusive statement. And sometimes it makes us very uncomfortable. But if that's true, if we really believe that, how do we communicate that with friends, relatives, with the people we come in contact with, in a way that's compassionate, in a way that demonstrates our love? Our culture is ultra tolerant and wants everybody to choose their own way. But Jesus says the other ways don't work. How do you deal with that in everyday life? We as a church don't want you to choose someone just so that you can invite them to church. This is about genuinely building relationships and investing in those relationships so that they become something that's good for everybody. There's no one formula or magic solution to building relationships, but we all probably know there's some common ways to invest. What are those common ways that we can invest in a spiritual relationship with somebody else to deepen it and strengthen that? Talk about that in your group. As we discuss our mission and intentionally investing in other relationships, we're doing that because we love God and love others. If we truly, genuinely love somebody else, if we have their best interest at heart, we're compelled to share the story, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. You know, it's interesting. If you're an atheist, it doesn't matter what anybody else believes because there's no ongoing consequence. It is what it is. But if you're a Christian, it matters tremendously what other people believe because there is a consequence to that. Discuss in your group how that can motivate you to share the gospel, to share your faith, to share the story of salvation coming into this world. The Great Commission is about doing things as we are going into the world. Not as we're waiting for the world to come to us, but as we're going out into the world. It's about making disciples, baptizing them into the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that Jesus has taught us. If we're going to be doing that, it means we have to overcome all of the cultural obstacles, all of our own psychological fears and protests and all of those things, because you realize all of that pressure not to do that comes from the enemy. He doesn't want us to do the Great Commission. He wants us to be hearers of the word, not doers of the word. What is it going to take for us to be doers of the word? Discuss that in your group. We'll continue our discussion of the power of one and how we invest in others this coming week as we talk about the investment of prayer. Join us Sunday.